I'm Abigail Pogrebin, and it's my honor and privilege to be interviewing Deborah Meyer, CEO and founder of Moving Traditions. Hello, Deborah.
Hey, Abby. So nice to be here with you.
And to be with you. You know, you talk so often, you give kavod to all of the young people whose lives I think it's safe to say you've really affected and even changed dramatically. But we don't hear a lot about what you were like as a grade schooler and a teen. So give us just a sense of Deborah Meyer as a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old when you were growing up and your Jewish context, your Jewish bio.
Sure. As a kid, like many girls, I felt like a person. And it really wasn't until I hit adolescence that I realized that being a girl meant that I wasn't necessarily a full human being. And I feel that a real impetus for all of the work that I've done in my life, including founding and directing Moving Traditions, is that I was really told that I didn't necessarily have a seat at the table. And a story that kind of paints this picture is that when my brother had a bar mitzvah, it was Saturday morning and all the relatives came in to the DC area from New York and all over the place. And then when I had a bat mitzvah, it was Friday night with Haftorah and not as many guests. And when I asked my parents about this, their answer was, "You'll have the wedding." And which was like typical for the time. It's not my parents' fault. That was what the culture was like. And I felt like that wasn't right. Like, why couldn't I have this Saturday morning Torah experience?
Let's fast forward to Moving Traditions. Tell me about the gestation of your organization.
When we started Moving Traditions, I really wanted to focus Jewish education and engagement for teens on what it means to be a human being and how to become a full, engaged, healthy person in our society today. So for me, Jewish education should be more than how to light candles or say Kiddush, but really, what does it mean to grow up and be a strong individual who feels good about themselves in relationship with others and engaged in building society we want to live in?
And so much of the programming seems to be oriented towards acknowledging what the roadblocks are for a young person growing up, whether it's insecurity, whether it's competition, a sense of having to be perfect, gender identity, sexuality, just honestly self-esteem is so fragile now, and particularly in the social media moment, which is not the moment in which you created Moving Tradition. So how have some of the challenges changed as you've seen them evolve for young people?
I mean, I think you're right. I think that many of the challenges are the same, and what's changed is the intensification of those challenges by social media. We love social media. It's got so many pluses, and yet for kids, it really lifts up perfectionism, as it does for adults. But when you are just figuring out who you are and trying to organize this growing and changing body, and dealing with finding your place with your peers, social media can be really, really challenging. And the pandemic has been enormously challenging with all of its social isolation. What teens and preteens really need is to be together in the same room, laughing, falling all over each other, playing and learning what does it mean to be in community. And when we're behind our screens, it's just not the same. So it's been a really tough couple of years for everybody, and especially for preteens and teens.
I'm sure you have seen, as we all have, that there is increasing disparagement about some of the ideas I think that you hold dear, focusing on a sense of the whole self, who am I, personal wholeness, an idea that a program is holistic. There are people who sort of poo-poo or dismiss this stuff as being crunchy. And I would just love to give you the chance to say why it's urgent, why having this kind of orientation, these conversations with young people is really as important as any of the stuff that some people consider more concrete or more practical.
In a culture that is polarized and where unfortunately hate really has been unleashed, it is more important than ever that we help individual teens and preteens value themselves and also understand how to talk to each other with respect and compassion, that we can disagree and still be in relationship, that there are problems in the world and we can work together to change them. These are deeply Jewish concepts, and we have a deep history of Jewish people working together out of respect and love for social justice. And I'm hoping we can continue to grow that aspect of our tradition.
I would love you to just address specifically Kol Kolenu. Why is it particularly inspiring or important to you?
I love the Kol Kolenu Fellowship, and I'm so honored and thankful that it's been named for my co-founder, Sally Gottesman, and me. And that really encapsulates what it is that I love about Kol Kolenu, that it's important to have leadership and to build leadership, but I strongly believe that we must learn how to collaborate and lift up our partnerships, that working together for change is really how we're going to create the world we want to live in. And I'm so inspired by these smart, savvy, compassionate, and hardworking teens who are in touch with their Jewish values, in touch with their feminism, and are really helping other Jewish teens make change in the world. That's the kind of leadership that I'm really excited to be helping to build.
And what about your leadership style? How would you describe it? And if you could maybe articulate one aspect of it that you wish you could pass on to young women.
I feel that I think even today, one of the hardest things for women is to really hold our own value and to lift our voices and to ask for what we want and to really say what we're looking for. And I feel that it's not always easy to articulate what you want. It's not always easy to tell people when they're not necessarily making the mark. But if we can find compassion and clarity, then we can really forge strong relationships, and together we can resolve issues. And I really hope that women today will continue to lift up each other's voices and their own voices and really sing it loud and proud. And that's one reason, Kol Kolenu has such a great name. It's all our voices.
And I just would love to end with that word voice, because when we spoke earlier, you focused on a Hebrew phrase that I think is very powerful and guides you. It's translated, I think, as gentle whisper, or the thin voice of silence. And you talked about why we have to ask ourselves first, kol demama deka. Can you help expand on that a little bit?
Kol demama deka is the still small voice inside ourselves. So it really is, our agency really starts, our ability to act in the world effectively starts with listening to ourselves and finding the time and the moments to really discern what it is that we want and what will best serve us. And then bringing that voice out, articulating what it is that we want to others with clarity. And I think when we're clear and centered, we're also kind. And that, that strength with kindness and with compassion is really what I think we want to go for more and more, I hope, today.
Deborah, thank you for your commitment. Thank you for these 16 years. Thank you for the innovation and the courage and passing on such a crucial place, such crucial ideas, such crucial leadership for the next generation.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you so much.